Okay, Mark, I think you can roll.
Thanks. Thanks, Enrique. So I'll call the February 22nd, 2021. Well, it's a regular session, but the work session we'll call that to order here at 5:31 p.m. And the work session this evening is on the early learning program. Elena Carter, District Literacy and Title I Coordinator, along with members of the Children's Institute and principals, will provide information about early learning in Forest Grove School District during this work session. So with that, I will turn it over to Elena Carter.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all. Faces I see every day. I haven't been here since I think our literacy discussion, which feels like a lifetime ago, but I think it was actually just in the fall. Let me switch over here. Okay, so yeah, our team is going to be presenting some information tonight on where we're at with our early learning model. Myself, we have the Children's Institute here headed up by interim CEO Karen Twain. We also have principals who oversee pre-K classrooms in their buildings who are also going to share information tonight. Our hopes is that while we are going to present some information to you, our hope is that you'll just interrupt, ask questions as we present information, but we did leave time at the end. So if you also have questions at the end, that's fine too. But we're here just to talk together tonight about early learning. So let me get into present mode here.
Can I interrupt real quick? Yeah. Hey, Mark, did we do introductions?
No.
I think we wait till the regular meeting for that.
Oh, okay. There's just a lot of new people here. I want introductions might be but yeah, that's fine.
You don't know everybody, Brad?
Who's talking?
No one.
Well, we can do them now, or as the principals. I mean, I know you'll know all the principals. When Karen comes in and introduces her team, I think by then we will have introduced everyone kind of slowly but surely. Will that work?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so early learning in Forest Grove, here we go. All right, so we know that early learning is a priority in the district, and from hearing from Superintendent Parker, it sounds like that is a priority not just from the board level, but from our community level and from our district. And so we're here today to just kind of have some discussion around what it looks like and where we're hopefully heading towards, where we've been. And so the general agenda is that I'm going to give you just some general updates on where we're at currently, with help from principals as far as where we've been, because obviously I'm fairly new to this role. And so historically speaking, we have some principals that can talk much more and much in depth to where we have been. And then we will also have Children's Institute speak to their partnership with us and the work that the buildings, the teachers, the administrators have done with the Children's Institute. And then, like I said, at the end, we can talk more if and when. Okay, so why does early learning matter? So we included, and I believe that Kathy sent this presentation to board members prior to now. And so if at your leisure you want to peruse, there's a link to, I think there's just about 3 slides, some very succinct and brief data on why early learning matters, but it's good data, and it's good for us just to remind ourselves kind of why we're here. Early learning, as we know, is critically important to kiddos for their social and emotional development, not just their cognitive. We know that children that participate in early learning education have higher graduation rates and are less at risk for incarceration. And probably the most impactful piece of data that drives me when I think about where should we invest our time and money, and what is going to impact children in the most amazing ways for not just kindergarten or first, but lifelong, is that we know that brain development, the most critical areas of the brain develop by age 5, which is prior to kinder. So when you think about when kids enter our system traditionally in kindergarten, they've already developed the most critical parts of their brain. And so why is early learning important? I mean, I think it speaks for itself. All right, so just some operational, just logistics as far as where our program is at or our model is at in our district. Currently, we have 3 full-day classrooms, one at Cornelius, one at Echo Shaw, and new this year, Fern Hill. So Fern Hill is the newest school to bring in a full-day pre-K. Now, prior to COVID, we actually had a full day and a half day at Cornelius and Echo Shaw, but because of some of the COVID challenges and constraints, we've had to dial that back a little bit. So right now, this year, it's just one full-time, full-day classroom in each of the 3 buildings. Each classroom serves approximately 15 to 20 students. 20 is the cap, so we don't go over 20. And the staffing, we have it in each of the classrooms, we have 1 certified licensed teacher who all masters in early childhood development. And then we also have 2 instructional aides that support students in each of the classrooms. Our funding streams, we fund, the majority of the funding comes from our preschool promise grant. We actually, out of the state, our district received the highest grant award. So that has been awesome this year because we've been really able to do some things that we haven't been able to previously. But we also have some funds that come from Title I, Migrant, and then the Children's Institute grant, and then our partnership with Children's Institute and the work that they support us with. And then on average, in a typical year, we have, after we have filled our classrooms, we still have approximately 45 to 50 families that are placed on the wait list district-wide. So we still definitely have a need and a desire from our community to provide early learning. Okay, so we thought instead of me just continuing to talk that it would be helpful for some of our principals who've been here throughout the inception of early learning to speak to some of the work. So Perla Rodriguez, she's going to first speak about how has early learning evolved in Forest Grove over the last 8 years since it began. And then Angela Graves from Cornelius is going to speak a little bit briefly about what's going well and then what are next steps. And then I'm going to speak in behalf of Rogelio Martinez since he is with his family this evening. So Perla, do you need me to share screen with you or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just
take
it on over. Okay. So I'm Perla Rodriguez. I'm the principal at Echo Shaw, and we are the first pre-K program in the school district. Our program, little fun fact, our very first pre-K students are now in 6th grade at our school. And when we first started with them, Jamie Amaya, who's one of our amazing rock star teachers, I talked her into coming down to pre-K to start the program. And she, since then, has moved all the way up to 6th grade. So our 6th graders that were in pre-K have their exact same pre-K teacher, which is a lot of fun. When our program started 8 years ago, funding was totally migrant. It was 100% migrant. And so we only served the first group of kids. They were migrant students, and we had them for like 3/4 of a day. They weren't quite with us the whole day. Then at the end of that first year, we were so excited about what we were seeing that there was a little bit of title funding that was left over from somewhere, or that I found somewhere. And we combined it, which enabled us to be able to open it up to students that were not just migrant students. What we found was going into, the 3rd year, was that we had so many students that wanted to be in the program that we had to decide, should we limit it to half of the students, or should we have 2 half-day programs? And so we tried that for one of the years. I think over the last 8 years, before getting pre-K promise funding, which has been the most consistent funding, we kind of were making decisions based on who was funding, where was the money coming from, but also what we were learning along the way. And we've always had, we still have this this awareness of the need in our community. So that also motivates us to make certain decisions around how can we expand this, how can we provide this for more students. So over the last 8 years, it's changed and it's evolved from, one little cohort of migrant students to students that were just migrant entitled, to then being able to open it up to kind of first come, first serve, leaving some slots for migrant students, to pre-K Promise, which also has like priorities that they would like for us to focus on when we are assigning the slots. And so as of right now, the way, as Elena explained, at Echo Shaw, we've had a full day pre-K Promise classroom, and with title funding, we were able to offer a half day program, which actually has up until this year. This year, it's only been a full day pre-K, but having the full day option and the half day option has been nice. Mostly, not mostly, but we have a lot of parents that worry that, I don't know if they're ready for a full day. So it's a nice option to say, well, we have the half day model as well. So some things that are going well, and I'll speak specifically to Echo Shaw in terms of what's going well, what are some areas of growth, and then I'll hand it over to Angela to speak to her program. And then Elena, like she said, will cover Fern Hill. So for us at Echo Shaw, what's going well is that from the very beginning, because pre-K is not something that has been required by the state, if you will, and because we were the first school to bring it on, we had a lot of freedom to create a program that nobody was really telling us, it has to have this, you have to use this curriculum, or you need to do this. We were able to really just study what does the research say about quality pre-K experiences for students, and letting us, we allowed ourselves to let the literature dictate what our model would look like. In public schools, in general, across the country, it's really a gift to be able to just anchor decisions in the literature and what we know about brain development. There are so many, there's just all these things always kind of coming at us that it feels like we're responding to, that it really has felt like the one place the last 8 years that decisions are made based on what the research says is good for students at this age. And that's been important because you can't make some decisions that way without wanting to start looking at other grade levels, saying, well, we're so flexible with pre-K because that's what the kids need developmentally. Why aren't we making decisions like that for our first graders or second graders? So that has really been something that we've all valued, is the reminder that we don't have to create everything from scratch. We can look to what's worked, evidence-based practices, and we are implementing that, I would say, school-wide in other areas, because we've gotten a taste for what we could create at pre-K. Our pre-K program is fully part of our school. It's not like we have a K-6 school and then there's this little pre-K classroom, or like the daycare classroom. It's definitely not. It's, our pre-K students have their lunchtime, they have their recess block, they have their library time, and the students, as well as the staff, view our pre-K students as, the youngest Echo Shaw Eagles. It's not like a side program. It truly is part of our entire learning continuum at Echo Shaw. As far as just some areas for growth, I think we need to continue to focus on articulation from this bridge from pre-K to, ideally second, third grade. While we are giving ourselves permission to make decisions at some of the other grades based on what the literature says, it still does feel like a little bit of a cliff after pre-K. For a lot of reasons. Common Core state standards are introduced in kinder. That's not something that is really driving us in pre-K. So, we do want more alignment so that it feels like a more natural progression of us offering public school to our students in a way that is seamless and that is driven by the same kinds of factors. And then the last thing for us that we're going to continue to work on really is learning of the adults in the system. So as you know, Echo Shaw has also, we have our 5th and 6th graders in our dual language program. And so we've kind of grown at both ends where we've added early learning and then we've expanded. And so we just need to make sure that all of the adults understand what does a typical 4-year-old look like, sound like, behave like, and at the same time, those preteens in 6th grade, what does that look like? So we're, as a staff, going to really tackle that hard once we get back into post-COVID school. So I'll hand it over to Angela.
Thank you, Perla. So at Cornelius, this is our 5th year of having a preschool promise classroom, and our oldest group is in 3rd grade. So it's been really fun to see them develop. And I know exactly every single kid, if they went through our pre-K or not. And so when they don't perform well on a test, I think they were in our pre-K. They should be doing better than that. But what I'm very proud about is with our pre-K, and I would say this is true of all of our pre-Ks in the district, is that it's hands-on, developmentally appropriate learning for our kids, and that we get exceptional outcomes out of our pre-Ks. They go to kindergarten not just ready for kinder, they go to kindergarten knowing how to read, knowing how to write 2 sentences independently with 100% accuracy, knowing their numbers 0 through 20, 100%. Some of them know their numbers 0 through 100. They know how to write them. They know how to read them. They know how to represent them. They don't know how to spell them yet, but that's okay. They'll get there. And they know how to do all of that in 2 languages, which is incredible. And what I really love about our pre-K is the family connections. So we get to start those family connections earlier than other schools because pre-K parents are just as excited as kinder parents of being part of our school community and getting to know what's happening and being a part of our parent club and getting involved. And then as kids get older, we all know then, parent participation kind of goes by the wayside because they think, oh, the school's got it now. So we love making those family connections early. And I would say what we need to do is we absolutely need additional pre-K classrooms. 100%. That's my biggest delta of what we need to work on next, because I always have double wait list for what I have spots for. And so, I've got 74 kinders at my school, but I only have 20 pre-K slots. So that means, 2/3 of my kids can't have a pre-K experience just because of the lack of space, the lack of funding for those slots. And anyone will tell you, I will kick anybody out of any classroom, use the cafeteria, use the library, use whatever classroom space I need. They can use my office to get another pre-K class in my building. Don't worry, space is not an issue at Cornelius. And the other thing that we're working on with the Children's Institute is our alignment in child development from pre-K to 4th grade. So we have there, just like at Echo Shaw, our pre-K program is fully aligned with all of our systems. We do 100% meetings with them. They have the same report card schedule, parent conference schedule. They come to our staff meetings, everything. I want to show you my own pre-K that I have at home. This is Elena. She'll be in our pre-K next year. You want to be in mommy's pre-K? Mm-hmm. Okay, go. This is why we don't have 3-year-olds at school, just FYI. Perla keeps wanting to bring them on. I've said, have you met a 3-year-old? They headbutt you for fun and laugh. Okay, 4-year-olds are much better. So we want to keep that child development going pre-K through 4th grade. And then we want to continue authentic parent partnerships. So we're starting that with the Children's Institute. That's our aim. That's our goal. That's what we're working on. And so we want to continue having authentic parent partnerships, not just parents sit and get and listen to the principal, but the parents working with the principal. You found some money? Mm-hmm. Wow.
They're for me.
No way. Anyway, so those authentic parent partnerships are so important, and we want to keep working on that. And now I'm going to toss it over to Elena to talk about Fern Hill.
Wait, can I interrupt real quick, Angela? I have a
Yeah.
quick question. What kind of things do you guys do to help with those authentic relationships?
Oh, okay. That's a really good question. I did not pay you to say that. Although Elena did find 3 pennies if you're interested. So
Okay, I'll take it.
yeah, I'll put it in the mail. So we have started something new this year. I have rebranded my parent club, and I call them Tecitos, like tea time, Tecito con la directora, tea time with the principal. And so now we're doing all these on Zoom, of course. We started this literally the same week. I think it was March 9th that COVID shut down our schools. So it was like, oh my gosh, how do we do this on Zoom? But what we are doing is we have like a kind of a circle atmosphere. And so on Zoom, it's more of a Brady Bunch atmosphere, but everybody gets equal airtime. And so the parents decide the agenda, and then we do some fun little get to know you games at the beginning. And then here's the agenda that, like, some things we've talked about is what's working for you with CDL and what's not working for you with CDL. And then they wanted to talk about fun, healthy snacks kids can make themselves, and field trips that you can take as a family, things like that. So they bring the topic, and then every single person at the meeting gets time to share their little piece on the topic, and I take notes, and then I send the notes out to everybody. And so everybody gets to learn ideas. So it's not just, let me tell you how to raise your child. It's everybody is an expert on their child and what works for them. And so we share that information.
Mommy.
That's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, and so like I mentioned, Rogelio, his son's reconciliation is tonight, and so of course he had to be there for that. So, but he did share with me some things. So he doesn't have the gift of being able to talk about how his program has evolved or, you know, how it's changed over time because it's his first year, and they started in CDL. So if you can imagine starting preschoolers in CDL without having any kind of conceptual, you know, image in their brain of what school looks like, that's pretty crazy, but they have done it, and they have done it really well. So what's going well, he said the attendance rate is going great. He said high engagement from parents. Parents are really involved during the literacy and the math blocks. And now they're actually starting to work towards trying to gradually find ways for preschoolers to be more independent with their work time. So that's a great place to be. Students are seeing and hearing the learning objectives, and they're following the daily routines. They're following the daily schedule, even if they're doing it from home. He said they're seeing academic progress. They're seeing academic growth, which they're ecstatic about. High engagement from the kids. The kids are inquisitive. They are moving around. They're asking questions. They're engaging highly during their time with their teacher. He said they seem to feel really safe with their teachers and with the staff, with their instructional assistants. Advocating, reaching out, asking questions. And Rogelio just says a huge thank you to Perla, Angela, the Children's Institute, Maroa, and Cecia, and Elizabeth, the preschool teachers, because everyone has been really hands-on helping Fern Hill get their program off the ground this year with a new teacher, a new classroom at Fern Hill. And he just wants to thank everyone for all of their support with that. Things that could, areas for growth or next steps for the program. He said, well, just in general, they're new. So, you know, over time, they hope to look back and reflect and continue to improve. Coaching, he said, actually next steps, looking for coaching, not only for a principal who's leading an early learning program in his building, but also for staff, instructional coaching for staff in early learning and early learning development. Looking next steps for how to increase opportunities for students to direct their own learning. So exploration and hands-on play. Let's see here. And just in general, how to introduce pre-K into Fern Hill. So the building has not had a preschool classroom, you know, in their building. And so that is just an added dynamic, a really awesome one, but just an added dynamic as we start to bring kiddos back. What will that look like? And just building that community for the first time in a long time, that is a next step, and they're excited. So yeah, so those are our 3 buildings. Thank you, principals, for sharing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is it, I guess I heard Angela say that you have more need than you have seats. Is that the case at all three of the schools? It is, okay. And do we have, I mean,
That's been proven every single year, Mark.
yeah, okay.
This year is a little different. We don't have as many kids in the wait list just because the parents are like our instructional assistants at home working right next to their kids, and it's not childcare at all. But yes, every year we have double the people that want spots that we have spots for.
Okay. And do we have, I mean, I know we're going to talk, I think maybe later today, we're going to start on facility stuff, but we would need, do we have enough space for more classrooms? Angela, you said you'd find space.
Yes, no worries there. Both Pearl and I will find space.
Okay, all right. And so then, so it's space and funding. It's not space, it's funding then. It's just straight funding. Okay. Yeah, all right.
And I don't know enough about Fern Hill's layout and as far as
Fern Hill has extra space. They have extra classrooms. They're good.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and I would just add that ideally we would grow our pre-K, our district pre-K program to the point that all of the schools would be able to offer it, because part of, I think, the magic of pre-kindergarten is that it really truly is pre-kindergarten. You can tell the first day of school of kindergarten, peek into our classrooms and you can point out which kids were in the pre-K program the previous year. And so there's a lot of power, I think, in eventually all of our schools having a pre-K that then feeds right into our schools.
I like to use our pre-K students as an example for our fourth graders. I'm like, can you please walk in a straight line like our pre-Ks?
Pearl, I really appreciate you mentioning expanding to all the Forest Grove school districts, because count Joe Gale in the realm of we'll make room as well. We would love to expand into our building as well.
So there is a space issue here long term when we start thinking about a district. So I know that as we come into the reason we're presenting today, part of that reason is for the board members to have a full picture of what this pre-K looks like, because we will have some long range facility planning needs. And there's been some very interesting things being said at the state level and at the federal level about funding. So there's some opportunities here that we need to continue to be thinking about. So, and I'll throw it back to you guys. Didn't mean to jump in.
No, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep this brief because I definitely want to leave time for Children's Institute because they're such a big part of our work. So I want to leave some time for that and then just continual discussion. So just generally speaking, the work that the teachers and the staff and with Children's Institute's guidance, these are our 4 priority areas. And really, I think between Perla and Angela, they basically have hit all of these when they spoke about what their classrooms look like right now. The academics and the social emotional learning, Christina Meinica, student success coach, and Cassie Kinney, coordinator of behavioral health, they've done a lot of work, and I believe they've already spoken to the board recently about the alignment and bringing social emotional learning into the classrooms. And so I know that K4, there was alignment, intentional alignment done around PACS, and then brought it down to pre-K4. So now there's alignment with PACS tools. So that's already there. The academic piece, like I think Angela did say, was that we do need to work on the horizontal and the vertical alignment. We do need to look at what are we doing in each of our pre-K classrooms district-wide, and align ourselves horizontally that way. And then vertically look at, okay, what are we doing in pre-K? How does that build into kinder? And it's not just about kinder readiness, right? It's like so much more than that, which both of the principals spoke to. It's about preparing kiddos so that they're ready to go on to kinder, first, second, third. So we need that, we need it to build, we need it to spiral. And so that work still needs to be done. We know that's a priority. Dual language, that's already implemented and being practiced. The Gomez and Gomez model is already in the preschool classrooms, and we see that in all of the buildings. Family engagement, like Angela spoke of already, is really, really important. And buildings are already setting objectives and goals around family engagement. But we also know, and we've seen the data, that as kids get older, family engagement does decline, and at no fault of the parents, it's about us looking at how are we making our buildings. It's not just a matter of welcoming, but actually accessible. How do we make our buildings accessible to families? And so we're really having some conversation around that and what more we can do to make that happen for families and build that partnership. And then lastly, but certainly not least, is the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Equity is work that when I stepped into this role was already well on its way, with building leaders, with district leaders, with teachers, with the Freiburg team, looking at equity. How can we have conversations around identity safety for students, the critical need for that, for conversations about race and just our students feeling safe, embracing and talking about their culture and their background and where they came from. And so that is work that's continuing, and it can't be compartmentalized. It really is important that this work is literally embedded in everything we say and do throughout the day in the classroom. And so that is a priority area that we are working on, but we still have a ways to go with that. So just in general, we know that like Angela and Perla again already said, that we know that we're really doing a great job in our pre-K classrooms of providing meaningful, rich, authentic, relevant learning experiences for our kids. So we're already moving that way, but just in general, just to continue to reiterate the fact that we really are trying, and this is a lot of the work that hopefully you'll hear from the Children's Institute that we're doing with them, is this idea of moving from a more traditional approach of learning, which on the left, when you look at the left, we see this more traditional teacher, leader, teacher all-knowing, teacher is the expert, teacher kind of drives the learning, and really moving towards what we already have in improving the environment to kids and teachers are working alongside each other. They're collaborative, they're communicating, they're problem solving. They're using all those social skills that we know are not just important for kindergarten, but when you go out and talk to businesses right now and they say, what do you want your graduates to leave with? They don't talk about wanting them to have, geographical memory of the continents. They want to know, can they communicate? Can they collaborate? Can they critically think? Can they problem solve and innovate beyond what's given to them and told to them? So this is the evolution that we're trying to see starting in our pre-K and working towards. Again, another idea, again, this is not the only two by any means, but just another idea of this idea that we want to move from giving kids all the answers. We want to move from tasks where the answers are predetermined, that there's only one answer, that there's also a predetermined path in which kids use to get to the answer. We really want to evolve to this idea that kids can think outside the box. They can find multiple ways to solve problems. And we encourage that by also asking them to tap into their selves. So the more we can create identity safety, going back to one of our priority areas, and the more we can create this sense of safety in the classroom, the more they can tap into their background knowledge, their ideas, what kind of information they bring from their lives to their learning, and then they actually make really amazing, relevant, authentic connections in their learning. So we really are trying to move towards that, and it's there, but we can still do more. And that is actually a great segue to our work with Children's Institute, because that's exactly the kind of stuff that we talk about with them. So Karen Twain is the interim CEO, and I think she's going to introduce her team.
I am. If we can go to the next slide, that'd be great. Perfect. There they are. So first of all, Superintendent Parker and School Board, thank you so much for having us tonight. We've been excited to get in front of you and talk about the great work that's going on in Forest Grove. I'm going to quickly introduce our team, starting with Marina Merrill, Subin O, Ashley Walker, Yoni Castillo Flores, Tony Ioha, Laura Labar, and Aaron Lolich. And if we had more time, we'd tell you about our favorite snacks and do some other icebreakers. But for tonight, I just want you to know that this is a good group of people. And the reason I want to introduce everybody on the team, you can see their roles, is that our work with Forest Grove is a team effort. At different meetings, you'll see different people, or at different times, people taking the lead. And so all of these people interface with your school district. Thanks, Angela, for the snack shout out. In any case, we love working with you, your team and our team together. It is true that we provide a chunk of change, some money to the school district to do this work, but in some ways that's the least important part. The important part is the work that we're doing. And in my last professional adventure, I was assistant superintendent out in Tiger-Tualatin. I supervised principals, and I just want to tell you how special your principals are. Working with Perla and Angela and Rogelio, and last year we had Mariella really helping us. And any professional development we do with all your principals in your district, my bar is very high, and these folks have hit it and exceeded it. So we like the brain trust and the thought partnering that goes on between us. I would say the same of your teachers as well. And we really do work as a team on the approaches to early learning and what we do. You know, I wanted to mention that, yeah, we've done some professional development or worked through some other ways to think about social emotional learning, family engagement, equity, anti-bias, all those things. We also, it's the first time I met Rogelio, actually, through our connection at Nike, we were able to get quite a few things donated to the school district and save you some money there as well. And your principals and teachers were like kids in a candy shop, just grabbing stuff and throwing it into a truck to take over to Forest Grove. So anyway, it's been a really lovely relationship, and we've had a lot of fun. So if we can go to the next slide. So, you know, the name of our grant is Early School Success. And these 4 pillars are really what we're about. You know, the purpose is to provide school districts, and we also work with Beaverton School District, with the tools they need to offer for developmentally appropriate aligned instruction. And this is for children, not only in preschool, but up through 5th grade. So really, you know, we've made the effort to make sure that all your teachers in elementary school and all your administrators know that they're all early educators. It's not just pre-K. And we do that through these 4 blocks that you see right here. Go ahead to the next one. So we just wanted to give you a quick timeline. You know, we started in August 2019. We were eager and thrilled to be setting the tables, really, of who is going to be involved with this work and building our relationships. And then by October, we formed the school teams. And we started to do the work. And then in January, we worked through improvement science and human-centered design. And I know many of you are familiar with those processes. And really thought about, how do we work with your school where we're co-creating? It's not just us stepping in and offering our expertise, but how do we build things together? And we did. And then we made some really great progress, and we were about to do some plan, do, study action cycles, PDSAs, in February. And we got things kicked up, and the pandemic hit. And so, as you know, really the rest is history in terms of we had to pivot. We were meeting, you know, we're coming out to Forest Grove, we were in person, we were meeting with families and schools and doing a lot of work. And it worried CI. We thought, oh my goodness, you know, how's this going to go? And in fact, the relationship has continued to build, and we've continued to do the work, and we've pivoted in whatever way we have needed to, and, you know, helped with CDL, helped with a whole variety of things that weren't necessarily our intention, of course, to begin with, but all in the name of alignment and making sure that we're good partners with the school district and vice versa. So we continue to do the work regardless of the fact that we're not in person, but we hope to be soon. All right, next. So this partnership is important. And I'll give you a little bit of context really around Oregon and then focus on Forest Grove. And that is that you can see both in Oregon and even nationally, early learning is a big deal. It's a focus because people have come to realize that through the research and the data that they reviewed, that if we can start early, it makes a difference. Elena talked about brain research, when kids' brains are developing, all of that. But you know, there's little things like I was thrilled to hear that Rogelio's attendance is really good, because there's research to show that in pre-K and K, if those kids are attending, that's what it looks like for them in high school. And when they don't, it's really hard to change that pattern. So to start early with families and kids in that way is it's super important. People are making this investment now, and it's receiving a lot of attention. As you know, Forest Grove received a good deal of preschool promise money, and actually for school district, they had the most in the state. You all are a high recipient of some funds that a lot of districts did not receive. I know that you have a bond coming up, and that is important. Again, it's something I worked through when I was in the school district before. And in order to do that, you know there's a need. You have talked a lot about expansion, but I think with this expansion, you know, you need some vision, and you need to have the why behind that as to do it. And so we're here to help you in whatever way we can with that. I'm sure that many of you read that Multnomah County got preschool for all in the last election. And interestingly enough, it didn't just pass, it passed overwhelmingly. We see this coming to other counties, including Washington County. And so this is really, you know, it's coming whether we like it or not. You know, it's going to be in front of you before you know it. And what I think is really great is that Forest Grove has the opportunity to be a leader in this area, and you know, sort of get ahead of all this. So I'm hoping, again, with our help and with this partnership, as we talk about alignment and expansion and, you know, all the words that go with it, that ultimately we're really clear about why we're doing it and how it's going to help your school district and, of course, your children and families in Forest Grove. And we already see proof of that in working with your schools. Okay, so we're at the question and answer phase. We were really interested in coming tonight to make it more of a dialogue, but it's hard to have the dialogue without doing the PowerPoint and all the stuff around it.
Can I stop sharing? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we don't need any more slides. But we would really welcome the conversation, both either questions or thoughts you're having, both for your school district and for Children's Institute as we do our work. This is a multi-year grant, so we'll continue to work with your school district.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, for coming to present, and all the principals. I think this is exciting stuff, and I can't wait till we have pre-K in all our elementary schools. And I think you're right that it's good to know now, so that when we're thinking about long-range planning and facilities, you know, we know that we're going to have to plan for that space.
Yeah, I think you'll have to plan for it. And one of the things, we started with a program called Early Works, which is down in Yoncalla, and then also Earl Boyles and David Douglas. And that's what ESS, Early School Success, was built off of. At that time, Don Grotting was the superintendent out in David Douglas, and of course now he's in Beaverton. And when I was in Tiger Twalton, one of the things Don said to me is, you know, never build another elementary school without pre-K classrooms in it. One, you know, think about the future. And two, for them in David Douglas, one of their big learnings and findings was that by talking about early learning, that sold their bond. So that was a great selling point for their community. And they involved their community. They had parents going door to door. I mean, it was really fantastic because the community cared so much about it. So as you think about going forward with your bond, it's something to consider.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that tip.
Anything else?
Again, I'd just like to thank all of our folks, our principals, but specifically the Children's Institute. This idea of how we begin to connect pre-K to an already established curriculum of K5, K6. I just think it's been a great partnership for us to begin to explore and expand in this area. So again, I'd like to thank them and our principals who are out there doing this work every day.
And gratitude back to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we know you have a big night ahead. So good luck. And I'll be thinking of you while I'm watching the Blazer game.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Karen, you're not staying?
No, I've done that. I've been there. Good luck.
Thanks. Thank you guys for presenting and coming tonight. That's great.
Of course, anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's the, unless there are any other questions or comments, I think that'll close the work session. And we'll go ahead and close the work session. It looks like it's 6:17 p.m. and we'll reconvene at 6:30 for the regular school board meeting.
So Enrique, this is going to stay live though, correct? And we're just going to put a screen up and then we'll restart at 6:30.
That is correct. So if
Okay,
everyone could you can mute your microphone and we'll put a little note up that we'll reconvene.
Okay, thank you.
I think if we're at 6:30 right now, if we have Val, I think we can get started.
Okay.
I'm
There
here.
we go.
Okay. We'll get started. The February 22nd, 2021 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call of board members present. Mark Everett present. Brad Bafero.
I'm here.
Val Ingram.
I am here as well.
And Kate Grandusky and Narce Rodriguez are both absent this evening just due to illness, so not with us this evening. Miley Vernon?
Here.
Okay, thanks, Miley. The school board will hear public comment for unscheduled public appearance received through the designated email address, which is publiccomments@fgsd.k12.or.us and is on the district website. Comments will be read by district staff at the appropriate time on the agenda and will be limited to 3 minutes. This time, will you join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. We could do an introduction of staff and audience that are in attendance this evening at this time.
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
Kevin Ryan, Director of Human Resources.
Enrique Piñón, Technology Department.
Eileen Klute, Business.
David Warner, Communications.
Kim Shira, Student Services.
Lacey Pickerel, Nutrition Services.
Mark Hughes, Manager of Facilities. And first time user of this tablet doing a Zoom.
Well, welcome. Okay. Thank you, everybody. That's everybody. Can I move on to the approval of tonight's agenda? Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda as written.
And I will second it.
Okay. Call for a vote. I'm a yes. Brad?
Yes.
And Val?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Motion passes. Thanks. Next up is our student, excuse me, student representative report. Miley, it's go ahead if you have a report.
Okay, today is longer than usual because I'm actually going to be doing ASB and then Renaissance today, and hopefully in the future too. So I'll start with Renaissance right now. Their rallies committee is working with the community committee to build virtual scavenger hunts in Forest Grove and Cornelius. And then the goal is for them to host the event in March. Their student recognition is working on identifying and recognizing students who normally don't get it. They're doing virtual shout outs throughout their Instagram page and working on selecting Renaissance Student of the Month, with the help of staff and teachers. And then staff recognition, that group is similar to the student recognition group, but they're focusing on their staff right now. And then right now they're actually writing letters to the staff and are going to mail it to them. Their intercultural group, it's a new one this year. They're going to help connect with incoming Latinx students and welcome them into our school. They're building postcards to send home to these students. They're also working with some of our ELD teachers and supporting their students. Also, or finally for them, their community committee that's working with the community members and businesses. Right now they're writing postcards to show their appreciation to businesses, and then they're also helping the rallies committee plan their scavenger hunt. So that's for Renaissance. And then for ASB right now, athletics, we decided to split into two groups, but it will still be under athletics. So it'll be athletics and then esports. So for esports right now, we're creating team names and getting in contact with team members. Athletics is working on their budget and getting prepared for the start of the sports season. Class competition, they just sent out, well, what I can see is their staff trivia today, which is a bunch of questions on a lot of teachers, and it's on their Instagram page, and they might be sending it out, but I'm not positive on that. And then right now they're working on their class competition number 2. Clubs and connections right now, they are working to get Vibe Crew, I think, set up again, and work on and see if there might be a freshman orientation or how that's going to go. They're also just supporting Unified and making sure that everyone feels included and connected. And then they're just planning on stuff in the future. And then for our legal team, they're working on evaluating the bylaws and organizing student council. Outreach, they're getting to know each other, which I think is good. And then they're also doing some mental health videos and are working with the community cupboard. And and getting resources out to people. And then for our productions, they're working on their budget right now. And then they're working on videos like the how-to videos. And the one they're working on now in editing is the how-to for budgeting, which will help in the future. Then for publicity and recognition, they just did the Senior Hall of Fame, and I'm not sure if they're still working on it, or I think it might, I'm pretty sure it's done, but I'm not sure. And then they're doing Instagram shout outs. And then for social media, they're posting engaging questions on their story. And I just saw those today, which they did one like, should pineapple be on pizza? So that's an example of one of the questions they did. And then they're also they're going to be updating things on the Forest Grove School Board page, or I'm not sure if it's the school board page or if it's our high school page, but just about what we're doing, I think, in general. And then Spirit and Rewards, they're sending good jobs out to students, or they're going to be sending good jobs out to students at the end of the year. So it'll be like postcards. They're planning on Spirit Weeks, and I heard them talking about St. Patrick's Day one in March they're thinking of, and then also they're doing teacher recognitions next month. And that's it.
Well,
Thanks, Smiley. It's so great to hear all the exciting things you guys have going on.
Okay, that was outstanding. That was a good report.
Thank you.
Good job.
that was a great job, Miley. There's just a ton of things going on. Nice job keeping that all straight. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on. We've got correspondence and celebrations, calendar notes, recognition, and well, just the superintendent report. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Chair Everett. I'm going to spend a lot of the time in the presentation later talking more about what I'd probably normally do in these superintendent comments, so I'll save some of that for later. But there's a couple things I did want to mention. Meal services expanded for Forest Grove families. Nutrition Services recently completed a survey of families that are receiving meals. Most families are struggling to come and pick up the meals each day, Monday through Friday. So the Forest Grove School District has started a 7-day meal kit for families that are unable to attend the daily meal pickup. This began the week of February 15th and is similar to the meal boxes that we were providing over the winter break. Families will have to fill out an online survey in advance each week and will be able to pick up their meal box at any of the 4 walk-up sites: Forest Grove High School, Joseph Gale Elementary School, Harvey Clark Elementary School, and Echo Shaw Elementary School. We're currently offering about 120 meal kits per week. Daily curbside and bus locations are also still available. I think it's a great option for some of our families who are struggling to come in and pick up the meals each day. So thank you very much to Sodexo and the crew kind of getting that organized. Then the second thing I want to just mention is with the move to online learning meetings, school board meetings during the pandemic, there isn't as much face-to-face. It's communication is harder. And we've been looking, even as we negotiate these Zoom board meetings. Hang on one sec, I think hang on one sec, I just got to re-log in. There we go. Give me 1 second here, sorry. Okay. There we go. We're looking at some new software in the near future to provide a better way for our teachers, our administrators, our community to be able to express their opinions about things going on in the district, and for folks to be able to rate and to be able to provide this information. We'll be pushing something out, I think this Friday, to the community to kind of start this process. So just wanted to highlight that that's coming, and we're hopeful that it's going to provide a better way for more people to provide their opinions about how things are going. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and get us started on we've got quite a few public comments tonight, and get us going on the rest of this.
Okay, thank you. So next is the unscheduled public appearance. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments should be submitted through the designated email address and will be read by district staff. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the process and protocol during in-person board meetings. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel is not allowed at this time. Are there any comments that have been received?
Yes, we have several. Kathy Bonson and myself will take turns reading them. Kathy, do you want to start?
Sure. So the first one is from Nicole Christofferson, who's a first grade teacher at Joseph Gale. Is the district planning to send out a video modeling how this will look for students? What will the day look like for them? I know other districts have sent out videos, and I think this is helpful for parents and students to make an educated decision on what's right for their family.
Okay, number 2 is from John Hegenveld. He says, for context, I'm a lifelong Democrat, long-term college level educator, and lifetime supporter of public education. I'm also the parent of 2 Harvey Clark students. In his Milwaukee town hall, President Biden has established a goal of K-8 education in person 5 days a week as soon as case rates permit. While I am sure Superintendent Parker has provided you the following information, at some point it bears repeating. Duke University 100,000 person study showing effectively 0 rate of student to teacher transmission at in-person settings. The National Federation of Teachers president stating on Monday this past week, quote, teacher vaccination is not a gate to in-person school opening, close quote. Superintendent Parker has had over a year to plan school reopenings when metrics support in-person learning. The recommendation for the past 2 weeks has supported hybrid instruction today. Public health forecasts indicate Washington County will fall below 100 cases per 100,000 by the end of March, possibly sooner. The school board should be demanding an answer to the following questions. Noting that completing vaccination is not viewed as a requirement by National Teachers Union, the CDC, or state policy recommendations. What barriers exist to accelerating in-person K-8 to early March? What plans exist to open K-8 5 days a week in a majority in-person model when the state and CDC recommendation returns to in-person instructional format this spring, while preserving the CDL options for families that require it? In Harvey Clark, 60% of parents in the recent survey are seeking in-person education. Parents and teachers know that CDL is no longer being successful for a wide range of students. The teachers my family has talked to want to get back in class as soon as the school board lets them. The consequence of not re-entering in person will cause families to leave the district and leave the school system. And this will have an adverse impact on the local economy that will be quite serious. The state has done the right thing and accelerated teachers' vaccination schedule. You must step up your responsibilities to the families and the community by accelerating in-person instruction option for our children.
Okay, the next one is from Alden Snow. Will we be able to keep our kids out of school until they are vaccinated? If our kids did end up going into school without being vaccinated, how could people at the school who are caught with their noses out of their masks be held accountable for potentially spreading the infection, whether or not they are vaccinated? And would the testing and contact tracing protocols for this look like? And how would the quarantine be when they are infections? Online summer school should be planned for this year to help kids make up for any online transition losses and to keep our kids out of summer camps. If this isn't a year to try mass year-round schooling, why we wait for kids' vaccinations? That's it.
Okay, next is from Amy Patton. It says, our child experienced an instance where his online class was shown pornography to the entire class. Minor children were exposed to pornography in an FGSD school environment. It is becoming apparent that safety at FGSD only means being safe from COVID-19. When does this become a situation where the online school environment at FGSD is more harmful to students' mental and emotional health than the pandemic? Are you considering all factors when making decisions? That's the end of that one.
So before we move on there, why don't we, Enrique, if you could just kind of brief us on where that is at.
Yeah, just to provide a little more information on that the high school administration and the technology department were investigating the incident to help identify the individual responsible. And the high schools is also communicating and working with the parents and students in that impacted class. The current district default and recommended settings, meeting settings, are to only allow FGSD user accounts to access meetings. But we're reviewing our settings and staff guidance on the meetings to help prevent incidents like this in the future. So we're working with the high school to make sure that we do everything we can to prevent something like this from happening again.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is from Aaron Stein. Good day. Based on my understanding, in-class days instruction will only be around 3 hours. After a year away from the classroom, why would the school not want to maximize in-person instruction time? Even if it requires 2 sets of teachers, a CDL instructor and an in-person instructor. I think resources could be best managed with full day at school. As a parent who has a student on an IEP, additional time in person for reading and speech would be helpful. Additionally, is the district considering extending the school year to year-round school? Many states have students in class all year. This seems to be the perfect time to revamp learning in a way that benefits all students long-term.
Hey, Kathy, did you say the name?
Aaron Stein.
Thanks.
Okay, next is from Sam Dixon. Hello, I am wondering where we stand on returning kids to class as far as the teachers' unions are concerned. Do you anticipate any issues getting teachers to return to the classroom? Also, what data are they using to make the case that the classrooms are not safe? They continuously refer to ventilation systems. Has anyone even tested these systems to see if they are actually an issue or this just hypothetical? Based on schools all over the country that have been running since September, we have clearly seen that the classrooms are safe. Lately, it seems the only updates we receive are regarding new meetings and new levels of decisions that need to take place. Why are we not simply opening the schools to those families that are willing to send their kids while allowing those that do not think it is safe to continue with CDL? Thank you.
Okay, this one's from John Colgan, who is a teacher at NAMS. Seeing these decisions being made through Zoom does not inspire confidence. Since we need staff, students, and parents to know that they can safely return for Lippy and more in the coming weeks and months, my question is, what is the school board and the district administration planning to do to show us that this is safe to return to the buildings within the appropriate health and safety guidelines? Will you be present at school buildings? Will we see you in the classroom?
Okay, the next one. This is from Christy and Kevin Kotke. Dear Forest Grove School Board members, thank you for all of the time and energy you put into working together to make the best decisions you can for numerous students and families in FGSD. It is a job that no one can truly appreciate until they have been there, done that. However, as teachers and parents ourselves, we have some understanding of the behind the scenes work, discussions, research, collaboration, and many times challenging decisions that have to be made. While navigating through this pandemic, there are no right answers. There are best answers at the time with the information we have. When someone seems sure that this is the way to do things, I think it is healthy for a leader to not only question that, but to take into account all of the things we do know that others may not see. Anecdotal stories have a tendency to become facts, and that's coupled with emotions running high, making all the steps ahead even more challenging. Many decisions may seem right at the time and wrong the next day. As community members, we are hoping we all can realize that the best decisions are being made with the current information, and that each district is unique in its needs and circumstances. We may not always agree with the decisions of the district and the board, but we do want to voice our appreciation for your comprehensive analysis of district issues, especially something as large as a return to school during a pandemic. What we can say is what we have appreciated about the district's leadership during this chaotic time. Number one, consistent, clear, real talk communication from Dave Parker in his letter to parents. This is not a time to wordsmith it out and spin things. Dave has been great about telling it like it is, acknowledging this is hard and stressful on all of us, and letting us know how the next decision will be made. He has been great about projecting that we got this, and that's what you want to know during a time of chaos. The district's ability to be as careful as possible and being perhaps a little more vigilant about keeping kids and staff safety as a priority. While other districts may have given into pressure to return to some activities earlier, what students may have gained from that, in our opinion, would not have outweighed the risk to the overall community. We appreciate the level of caution and care taken to be very intentional about keeping kids safe as long as possible. Of course, it is not just about the kids, it is about the impact to the community. The decision to hold off on some extracurricular activities has most likely saved lives and helped our healthcare system be able to manage care effectively. Number three, the amazing, caring communication from teaching staff. Henry attends Oak Grove. Never once have I wondered what is happening or what the next steps are. Not once have I felt my voice was not being heard, and I was always clear on where and who I could call with questions if I had them. When I talk with parents and friends, many of whom are teachers and parents themselves, there is no question that many in our community want to return to school. Many of the people who really want to go back to school may not understand the logistics of what that will look or feel like in the classroom. They also will not understand the level of stress it will place on teachers who will be asked to bear the brunt of all the new work that must be done, while at the same time now having to keep students and themselves safe. Our wish would be that if school does resume, that the needs and suggestions of teaching staff are regularly sought weekly, and that the school board is willing to flex to make sure that the staff is prioritized. Do they have the supplies they need? Are they feeling 100% supported in the classroom? Is the work, effort, money, and time that will go into the transition equal to the benefit felt by students who may only be attending a few days a week? I am confident in the leadership of this district, and I am in full support of what the board decides to do. When hard decisions are made, our family will support the process that has been in place while understanding you are only doing your best every day to help us all through this. Thank you again for all that you do for our kids and our community. Sincerely, Christy and Kevin Kotke, proud mom and dad of Henry Kotke, Oak Grove Academy student.
So Mark, I want to take just a moment and thank everyone who sent in public comments regarding.
We have one more, Dave.
Oh, got one more?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yep. It's from Sarah Holt. She's a social studies teacher at Neil Armstrong. If Forest Grove School District opens for in-person learning this school year, which model is being proposed for instruction? The concurrent model, students learning virtually and in person from the same instructor, or two separate groups of remote learners, educators, and in-person cohorts and educators? Will different options be offered at elementary schools and secondary schools? That's it.
Perfect. Just wanted to thank everybody for sending in their comments. There's many different points of view here that we're negotiating. I think we're going to answer some of those questions. We will take down the questions that were asked here. If we don't propose an answer in what we're going to present tonight, then we'll reach back out to those folks and answer that. I can also follow up with you, board, on what some of those answers are too. But mostly I just wanted to thank folks for getting involved, and there's a lot of tough decisions out in front of us. So board, I don't know if you have some comments that you want to make.
So I have along the same lines. I do appreciate the comments. I was jotting down, trying to summarize each of the comments that we got this evening so I can have them sort of in front of me. to reflect on. And I do appreciate the comments. We've got folks wanting to go back to in person. We've got folks that are a little nervous about that. And so we appreciate those comments, all of them. So thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, thanks. We'll move on to the consent agenda, the next item on the tonight's agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent agenda items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Hearing none.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. So I'll call for the vote. I'm a yes. Val?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is presentations. One presentation this evening. That's our support services update. And this is, well, I think I'll turn it over to Eileen and Mark. So I don't know who's speaking first. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead and start, and then I'll kick it off to Mark and everybody else. Okay. Tonight we have our annual support services report to present to the board. The district works closely with all of our contracted partners to provide everything from our facilities management, custodial, grounds, nutrition services, and our transportation services. Overall, all of these things make up just under 13% of the district's annual budget. Contracting these services have been able to provide the district with that additional layer of expertise and resources for these essential services for our district. We appreciate their hard work in all of our partnerships that we have with each one of these. Tonight, we won't go through the whole report in detail. The report is in the board packet for your information. However, we do have representatives from Sodexo Facilities, Nutrition Services, and Mid-Columbia Bus that will each take a brief moment to provide you with an update or some highlights of this last year. Feel free to ask them any questions as we go through. And we'll go ahead and start with Mark.
Okay, thank you. So on behalf of Sodexo Schools, I would like to thank the board for allowing Sodexo to manage the custodial, the grounds, the maintenance, and as well as the food service. Billy Goldsmith, he made a choice to hire me into this position last year. And as he moved up district manager, and I've worked with him as a contractor for like the last 7 years or 5 to 7 years, putting up perhaps like the pre-K playgrounds and the covers over them. And then, yeah, the prior school year, watching the portable roll into Cornelius about 2 weeks before school started and having to put both of those together and get them ready for school in that amount of time. Billy is an amazing person to work for. As a manager, I couldn't ask for anybody better. I had the pleasure of working with Terry Thetford before that as a contractor on a couple of jobs. And I can just say with these two gentlemen to pull from, not to mention all the other managers that Sodexo has that I'm in regular communication with, I can assure you that we do our best to keep the district in good hands. With the pandemic, a lot of people were sick, or not sick, well, that too, but they couldn't work. And the complete opposite was true for our custodial staff. In that presentation that you've got, you'll see where we did a lot of painting, a lot of wall repairs that you just don't have time for on a regular basis, regular school year. So if there was an upside to it, the district got a lot of attention, and still, in fact, to this day, we're still painting other, in other buildings and making things look wonderful. So when the kids do come back, they can tear it up again, but it'll look good for a while. Some of the major things we did was the Tom McCall East, the old barrel roof gym, did a seismic upgrade to that this last year. That's been completed. And through some funding of SB 1149, one day Eileen pulls me into the office, says, "I got SB 1149 money, spend it." So, I had to figure out what I could do with it. And there's 4 schools in the PGE district. The rest are in Forest Grove Power. But those 4 schools got all new lighting at no cost to the district, all new LED lights. We also put in a new football field at the stadium, new turf. That was a pretty hefty job, along with a few other, several other projects that could go on all night. I'm sure you want to get beyond me. Anyways, I really enjoy working here. I just want you to know that I enjoy having Sodexo behind me. I've never really had that kind of support before. And I'm looking forward to, working with the, all the administrators to make sure their buildings are safe. We've done a lot of repairs to the HVAC systems this last year while the kids were gone. We had a few places where ventilation was not as well as they'd like, and now I'm glad to say that everything's really running at as best it can, and we're really happy for that. I just want to thank, Randy Edmiston. He's takes care of the custodial, and without him, I wouldn't know what to do. I'm really happy that he's as good a communicator as he is. He takes good care of those guys and girls, and make sure that the school district gets the best that they deserve as well. But Eileen, I got to thank you the most, because you really helped me keep focused on what the district needs, and I appreciate that. So unless there's any questions, I'll just give this up to Lacey, and she can tell you all about foods. Oh, was I muted the whole time? Damn it.
I was just giving them a chance to ask you anything, Mark. Thank you so much.
Hold it, Mark. Did you say something?
No, I wasn't.
I didn't hear a thing.
Geez. All right, Lacey. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. I just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to address you guys today. Even though we all can't be together in the same room as usual, I tried to keep the presentation par for the course for you. So I'm actually going to share my screen if I can here for you. I just have 2 slides to show you today. Can everybody see what I'm sharing right now?
Yes, we can.
Got
Awesome.
it. Yeah.
No, thank you guys. So I just want to walk you through what food service has been up to over the last year. Typically, I would compare last year's meal counts to the previous year, but in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, I thought it would be a fun positive to focus on how many meals we have provided at 0 cost. So since March 16th, when we left school, we have served 122,034 breakfasts, 123,778 lunches, and 46,111 dinners, all at 0 cost for anybody in the community. It's been some of the most challenging work we've done, but also by far the most rewarding projects that we've ever worked on as a whole department. So really grateful for the opportunity to feed those meals for free. We are operating under what's called the Summer Food Service USDA waivers right now. So that's what allows us to serve all the meals for free, but it also means that it's not just for district kiddos. It's for anybody in the community 18 and under. So it's really expanded the folks we can serve meals to, which feels really good. Before we knew what the 2021 school year would hold for us over summertime, we typically evaluate what CEP looks like for the coming years. So right before we started the school year in September, we were notified that we were awarded actually Echo Shaw to join the ranks of Joseph Gale, Fernhill, and Cornelius in CEP. That ends up kind of being a moot point this year because everybody's eating for free, but it's very exciting for the coming years when presumably we'll return to a regular model and the waivers will expire June 30th. And that means returning to a regular feeding model where kids need to apply for free or reduced meals or have money in their account or go to a CEP school where all meals are free and Echo Shaw qualified. So now when we do go back to regular school, we have an entire other building that will get to serve meals for no cost, and those families don't have to reapply with free and reduced applications every year. So we were really excited about that and proud of that accomplishment. Even though it feels kind of like some delayed gratification because we don't get to use it yet, everybody's getting to eat for free instead right now. So we're really excited for that to come back at the next school year. Other highlights were that we have received about $12,000 in equipment grants. That was applied for just in a variety of different grants. We just kind of went out for whatever we could, and that helped us purchase some of the materials we'll need to go into hybrid meal service, and also has furnished our kitchens with what we need to serve in this changing meal service models, so that we have the proper safety equipment and extra carts and everything that we might need to execute those plans. So another highlight of the program, that's typically more than we would get in grants for equipment in a given year. So it was pretty exciting. And then as Superintendent Parker mentioned at the beginning of the board meeting tonight, I just kind of wanted to touch on our evolving meal service. What started as just curbside grab and go at a few schools has turned into a bus route, 7-day meal kits, where folks can order. It's kind of like grocery shopping. They get essentially a pack out of meals that some of them are assembled and some of them are not, so that they have longevity and families can use those food items in their own kitchen and cooking. That has developed, we started that last week, and it's going extremely well. The feedback we've gotten is really positive, and every week we have more and more families signing up. So very exciting. Now, of course, we're working on providing meals to all of the kids who are currently in the buildings for LIPI plans, and then working on hybrid planning as well. So we have many different forms of meal service going on concurrently, and it feels really good to make sure that everybody in the community and in the districts has some sort of access to these meals by whatever means works for them best. Things we're looking forward to, just working on our hybrid meal service plans. As the district works on their plans, ours change and grow with them. So we have tentative plans for what that looks like, and of course we'll continue to adjust those as needed. I would say a challenge for us this year is community outreach. As much information as we can post on the district website, and are grateful for all of the wonderful communication that Superintendent Parker puts in his Friday messages for us, there's always still families who seem to not have all the information they need from us. So some misconceptions that are out there are that the meals are only for kids who are on free or reduced lunch, and that isn't true. The meals are for everybody who 18 and under in the community. And then, of course,
She's not on.
getting the words
No,
out about
slide
CEP and making sure that they know at Echo Shaw that program will be in effect for them next school year. So just working on our community outreach as far as that's concerned. And then new this year for us also is the fresh fruit and vegetable program. We applied for that through Department of Education, and were awarded $45,250 to work with the buildings on promoting fruit and vegetable education, and also providing more fresh fruits and vegetables than they would typically have access to in the cafeteria. So when we do return into the buildings, that'll be something new and exciting for us to introduce everybody to as well. That's kind of what our year looked like, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have. And again, appreciate the opportunity to get to share all this work with you. I wanted to share just a quick, fun couple pictures with you guys of our meal kits. That's our admin, Amanda, dressed up as Liftoff, running from school to school and greeting all the kids at summer food service program, and then serving meals off the buses. So some fun stuff for you guys. All right, well, if no questions, we can go ahead and turn it over to Midco.
All right, thanks, Lacey. Boy, this year has been a year like no other. You know, back on March 13th, we didn't think this was going to go 11 weeks, let alone 11 months. And so transportation in a lot of ways has been kind of on in a hypersleep, waiting and waiting and waiting for the next event or change that we could get back to transporting the kids. You know, 31 years ago, I started driving a school bus while I was attending college, and it was a great fit to attend class and get some work in. And ultimately, when you take the athletic teams, you could get paid while you were doing your studies. It was a great deal. But one of the best parts of being a school bus driver was getting to know the kids. And then it was really fun to be noticed when you're in the grocery store and from across the store you hear, "Hey, that's my bus driver. That's my bus driver. Mom, that's my bus driver." And you get to know the kids, and they count on the fact that you're there. That's what our drivers are missing today, is those interactions. And they are looking forward to getting to see their kids, because most bus drivers consider the kids on their buses their kids. So they've missed those interactions. And I'm confident that when they do return, that they'll be surprised at how much those kids have changed, because it's been 11 months or more by the time they're actually going to see them again. So during this time, our Forest Grove team has remained strong. We have had some team members that have chosen to move on for various reasons, some due to health concerns, some due to that it just hastened into some retirement. But the nucleus of our driver group remains intact and strong. That's due largely to the efforts of Melissa and Mary, who keep in contact. They listen to their team. They share information as it comes out from the district and from the state, to make sure that the people are informed and understand what's coming. The biggest part of that success is because of the connection they feel to Midco and to Forest Grove School District. They are very aware of the school board's support and concern about them and their future and how they're doing. And so we are very grateful for that partnership and that communication from the school board to show that support for them. The challenge that we have faced for years in transportation is having qualified and caring drivers. The school bus industry experiencing that even more so now with the effects of the pandemic. There's some concern that will grow. The pool of available drivers, they may become even smaller as people choose not to stay in the workforce, or they choose because they feel like it's still too risky to enter back into that. Our goal is, and our effort is to help keep them informed, to make them aware of the great benefits of being a bus driver, of involved with the kids. And we know that once they get a chance to get out and be around the kids, that they will fall in love with it. And that they'll find that's very fulfilling, and the benefits far outweigh any risks that they might feel. As you know, limited in-person instruction moves forward rapidly. We are experiencing a great deal of change as parents decide to send their kids or to keep their kids home. The programs change. Our team has probably done more routing and rerouting this year than we've done in the last 5 years combined, as we build routes and then they change, and there's a trickle down. Every time one student changes, that changes the times for the other 10 kids or 12 kids on that route. So it's a huge challenge to keep up with those constant changes and keeping the parents informed as the the pickup times for their kiddos. The great news about the Lippy program is because there's such a few number of kids on the bus, our student referrals are way down, right? But student behavior is just really good right now. So kudos to that. Now, some of those parents who are experiencing comprehensive distance learning, they may feel like their student referrals are up. I don't know what it's like at their home. Drivers are learning to be flexible with the constant changes. Their route normally you would do about the same route Monday through Friday, and it'd be pretty consistent. But now you might have a different route every day, Monday through Friday, because of different programs. We've also got to experience the opportunity to deliver food, right, and be part of that meal delivery. We get a view of what it's like to be an Uber driver sometimes, because we're picking up here and we're picking up there to pick up the individuals that need to get to their classes. So the team's learning to adapt. That would be our buzzword for this year is flexible. We're going to bend, we're going to adapt, but we're not going to break. So they're doing really well. They're eager to get back to seeing the kids. They're eager to be around and get to that some form of normalcy. And we're confident that as we return, that they can do that. They've eager to comply with all of the requirements of disinfecting and keeping the kiddos safe, and just to see and be around them again. So we're looking forward to the future as it comes, and whatever the board decides is best, then we're going to do everything we can to support that and get those kids in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say to Mark, Lacey, and Brian, thanks. You hit on it being flexible this year, and so I think we all appreciate the flexibility that you showed, all three of you, in doing what was needed in a year that's been just amazing in terms of all of the challenges that have been presented. So the meal service, the cleaning, the bus, being flexible in the transportation, and now maybe it's like you said, it's getting ready to transport students and feeding students in the building for Lippy and things like that. So thank you very much for everything that you've all three of you have done in your organizations for this year. So thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions? Thanks very much. So the next item, we've got, looks like about 5 action items here. The first one is classified employee appreciation proclamation here. I have to get to it here. So there's we have a proclamation to acknowledge Classified School Employee Week, which is March 1st to the 5th. Our classified employees play an integral part of the Forest Grove School District's educational mission. These employees work, I'd say, extremely hard and are very, very deserving of being recognized. So I'll read the proclamation, and then at the end of that, if we can have a motion from the board, and we'll move on to approving this. So Classified Employee Week, March 1st to the 5th, 2021. Whereas the education of youth is essential to the future of our community, state, country, and world. And whereas classified employees are the backbone of our public education system. And whereas classified employees work directly with students, educators, parents, volunteers, business partners, and community members. And whereas classified employees support the smooth operation of offices, the safety and maintenance of buildings and property, and the safe transportation, healthy nutrition, and direct instruction of students. And whereas our community depends upon and trusts classified employees to serve students, and whereas classified employees with their diverse talents, and true dedication nurture students throughout their school years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Forest Grove School District Board of Directors proclaims March 1st to the 5th, 2021 to be Classified Employee Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Forest Grove School District Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join in this observance, recognizing the dedication and hard work of each of these individuals. Adopted the 22nd day of February 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mark,
Okay.
as stated.
I will second it and send a shout out. Thanks to all our classified employees. You guys rock. We appreciate you.
I'll second that too.
Yeah, me too. So, okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm a yes. Val
Yes.
and Brad. Brad.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
We needed your vote. Okay, thank you very much. That motion passes. So thanks. Okay, our next action item is presented by Mr. Parker. It's reopening recommendations. So Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Chair Everett. John, if you could share the first slide of this. It'll be me, it'll be multiple principals in the school district kind of presenting out on these recommendations. So again, thank you. For our purpose tonight is to lay out our plans for the reopening of schools in the Forest Grove School District. Some of this is kind of what we've already been suggesting for several weeks. And then there are some changes, specifically our recommendations for our secondary schools is changing tonight. So I want to start our conversation with by looking at the Washington County data. This has been kind of our pathway since July with regard to the number of cases in Washington County. When we came back from Christmas, our case rate was about 320 cases per 100,000 over 2 weeks. Since that time, basically from about 1226, we were right around 320. We've been dropping consistently each week. I've got the new numbers there. I don't have the new graph until tomorrow, but I can tell you that our numbers are now under 100. The case rate this week is 93.7, and the positivity rate is 3.3%. This is great news for our county, and we continue to see this drop. We're hearing about new variants, and we're hearing that in March, they may create a different situation where we see our case rate go back up, but that's not what we're seeing. And so this is the data that's kind of precipitating that we begin to get our schools back open. So with that in mind, let's go through kind of what we're looking at. I wanted to start tonight with just some of the parameters that we're looking at as we begin to think about how to do this. The first one is safety. We'll be following the recommendations made in the Ready Schools Safe Learners Guidance. And some of these are the very, very simple but effective methods. Everyone will wear a mask at all times in the school. We'll maintain social distance inside of our schools. Currently, that's 35 square feet. As we begin to watch these case rates go down, if they continue to go down, I expect them to change that social distancing, those requirements. We'll maintain cohorts. The current guidance is basically students shouldn't have more than 100 student contacts in a week. In our elementary schools, that will not be hard for us to maintain that. At the secondary schools, it's more of a challenge, although there's been some changes in the way that they count those. So we will currently satisfy their recommendations just fine. We'll ensure that students and staff are using good hygiene, washing hands. We'll be cleaning the high touch surfaces during the school day, and at night we'll have more custodial in our buildings during this period of time. We're following the guidelines from ODE around ODE and CDC around ventilation. increasing the amount of outside air going into all of our buildings. We're changing and improving the filters that we put in those buildings. We've got on our website actually a whole write-up on all of the things going on with ventilation. These measures, though, these are the most important ones for us to keep our people safe. And so these will be the things that we're focusing on. We also need our building systems to be flexible. We don't know what's going to happen. Since the beginning, since March 13th of last year, we've had to react multiple times as this pandemic has its own mind. Whatever we're creating for this hybrid needs to be able to flexibly move from one situation. After we open up, it may be 2 or 3 weeks where we're closing down again. How do we do that effectively? Many other school districts, as this is happening and as they're having to quarantine folks, they quarantine a grade level or they quarantine a class. Our systems have to be able to manage that. We're going to be learning from what we're doing. We've got to get back in school because we've got to figure out how to do this. Since the time that the pandemic started, we have only done one thing, which is comprehensive distance learning. We're now going back to a situation where we're going to have comprehensive distance learning going on, and we're going to have some in-person instruction. We've got to learn how to do that. We've got to learn what the systems are that we're going to put together. I also know that as soon as we start to, our staff begins to work with this, they're going to innovate. They're creative. They're excellent teachers. We've also got to be able to learn from that and evolve as it's going on. So the systems that we're putting into place have that. And then it's crucial and imperative. What we're seeing across our district is fewer kids. The attendance is going down. We're seeing fewer kids who are turning their screens on during lessons. There's lots of anecdotal evidence that's showing us we've got to start getting our schools back open. So that's what this plan is kind of set out to do. So first I want to start with kind of the dates for each of the grade levels that we're looking at. At the very end of this, I've got one slide that kind of we'll put in front of the board members kind of the motion that we're looking for. But the first thing is these are the starting dates that we're that are going to be our targets for every grade level. Pre-K through first, it's April 5th. There'll be some kind of preparation the week before, but I'll get to that next. Second through fourth will go April 12th. Again, pre-K through first, part of the reason we're starting them early is because of those students haven't been in our schools before. The first graders were there for about half a year, but we want an opportunity to be able to work with them and get them back into school and familiar with our systems and habits again. Fifth grade, those students haven't been at Tom McCall before, so we're starting them on the 12th, and again, the sixth grade will fall right after that, April 19th. Lastly, and this is a change, 7 through 12 on April 19th, we're going to be starting, instead of what we had been advertising, is staying in CDL and then running some sort of limited in person. We're now moving to April 19th, we'll be starting hybrid for all students. The reason that the April 19th date is there is because we're right in the middle of Q3. At the beginning of the year, we reorganized so that kids were taking only 4 classes at a time. So they'll finish a whole semester of work on April 12th and 13th, I believe is what the dates are there. But if we started a week earlier or even 2 weeks earlier than that, the kids they haven't even gone through their finals yet. So that's why we're starting. This will be the start of the fourth quarter, and it's a logical break for them to start up. So those are the dates that we're recommending for starts. And then the other board action that I'm looking for from you is that we need to provide some time for staff to make the transition from wherever they're currently teaching. About probably 20% of our teachers are currently teaching in their classrooms. The rest of our teachers are teaching at least a portion of their week at home. And so for pre-K through 6, what we're going to ask for is some time on the week before the right after spring break. So spring break is the week before, and then Monday the 29th and Tuesday the 30th, we are asking you to make those, there are currently student contact days, to make those basically staff prep days. It would be no student contact during that day. So that we're basically extending the spring break. Teachers need those days to get back into their classroom and begin to get ready to try and do the hybrid. We'll also work in 2 other Wednesdays, where currently kids are asynchronous on Wednesdays. We'll work up 2 other Wednesdays where staff can kind of get focused on prepping to come into their classrooms. That'll depend a little bit on grade level, so that's why I didn't put the specific dates down here for that. It doesn't actually impact the what kids are going to be doing that day. Secondary is a little bit different because of the high school will have finals on April 12th and 13th. So what we're asking for, April 14th is a staff grading and prep day. So we're asking that the 15th and 16th go from being student contact days to becoming student or staff prep days. That will give our teachers a couple of days to, again, get moved back into their classroom and prepare for the hybrid. So that's the transition week. Before we move on, why don't I just see if there's questions by board members on just kind of the dates and what we're recommending. What we're going to go to next is kind of a description of what these instructional models will look like at the different grade levels.
Well,
go
okay,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I think I'll wait until you're done with the instructional models, Dave, and then if I have questions.
Okay, I will ask some questions now because I do have some concerning the dates. You mentioned that the 5th graders are going to start a day before or something instead of, or the week before, something like that, because they've never been in the building. Are we going to maybe do that for the 7th graders who have never been at NAMS before, and also for the freshmen who have never been at the high school? And if we do that, you know, if they're not having student contact days, I think it was April, let me go back to my calendar, sorry. April 16th and 15th, maybe April 16th would be a good day for them to come and kind of tour and get used to the building and those things.
So I know there's some conversation. I think it's a great idea. I don't know exactly the details yet, Karen. I don't know if you guys have, if you have some conversations. I know that Miley was already kind of talking through a little bit of that.
Yeah, we've brainstormed just some preliminary ideas around the freshmen. Obviously, like you said, they've not been in our building. We were able to squeeze in our 8th grade family night before we were shut down. So that was kind of nice. So they did get tours of the building then, but of course we didn't have 100%.
Right.
And then obviously we've also talked about our seniors, obviously activities to end their senior year. So yeah, both of those grade levels. Nothing set in stone yet, but definitely part of our conversation.
Right, and I wouldn't want to take away the teachers' prep time for getting ready for hybrid and getting ready for their students to come back, but maybe some of the instructional assistants, the dean of students, like maybe they could head up something like that. It's just an idea. I have another question too. Hold on, let me find my notes. Oh, when you're talking about taking the days off to have the teachers prepare, I was kind of wondering if it would be a good idea to have teachers return to their classroom even before that, just to start teaching CDL from their classroom, and then they would be in their classroom and have more time to prepare for hybrid and for their lessons for in-person learning.
We're discussing that over. There's still all of, I've got to go through and negotiate the working conditions. We're still in the middle of that with our unions, and that would be part of is what our expectation is for staff to come back to the buildings. So we're on that too.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. That is great to hear. So one more question about the dates, I think.
Hey, Val, can you back up real quick? I don't know that we have clarity around the middle school, Dave, and the 7th graders. We heard Karen with the 9th grade, but I think Val asked a question about the 7th graders too.
I think the idea is still the same. We'll sit down with Juliana and Ted and kind of talk that through a little bit, because I think those students haven't been at NAMS either. So the same need is there. I think the key is how do we do that without so staff can prep and still provide the experience.
Thanks.
Yes. You mentioned that the high school's on quarters. What is NAMS on? Are they on quarters or semesters or like where will they be at on April 19th?
They're on semesters. So they'll be in the middle of second semester, the traditional half year.
Okay, great. Thanks, John.
Mhm.
Okay, those are all my questions about the first part. Thanks.
Thank you. So next I'm going to have John kind of get us started into describing what this is going to look like. And again, I want to, just before we get there, the parameters of flexibility. There's a lot of things when we talk about this, things are going to change. And this is the model we're pushing towards to begin with. But I just know that's since March 13th of 2020, pretty much all we've done is change. So we need to stay ready for that.
That's right. Thank you. Just in a quick overview, we've considered various instructional models, both in the state and we've examined some nationally as well. We've had weekly assistant superintendent meetings all year and since the summer. And we've been meeting weekly to compare notes. And that includes the Hillsborough School District, Beaverton, Tigard-Tualatin, and Sherwood, as well as Forest Grove. And these are the kind of discussions we've been having all year. And we've also, of course, discussed various hybrid models and best options. Furthermore, we've had weekly K-6 elementary principal meetings all year. Usually these are bi-monthly. And like Dave pointed out, things are ever changing and weekly. So in elementary principals, we've monitored the ever changing ODE and OHA guidelines, the reopening blueprints, vaccination rates for staff, CDL, LIPI, and hybrid. And out of that, we created a district LIPI/hybrid pilot team. And we started meeting back on November 24th. And we've had 8 meetings to date, and this week will be our 9th. We've had 39 outstanding team members, part of that team, including both FGEA or teacher presidents at these meetings, along with mostly teachers and all of our elementary principals. We have representation from all the PK6 schools. And we've also included the district's instructional TOSAs, the instructional coordinators, Enrique Peñon, the district technology director. And part of our goals was to inform best digital tools for hybrid teaching when we do pivot to the hybrid teaching platform, inform best classroom setup for LIPI and hybrid teaching, where through a cohort model, and inform characteristics of instructional models to be considered. Example, non-simulcast versus simulcast instructional practices. We also surveyed our staff. We created 4 instructional models and polled our K-6 teachers and staff. And as a result, we will share with you tonight a PK2 model, instructional model, and a 3-6 instructional model this evening. And we will provide an update of preliminary planning for the hybrid reopening for grades 7 through 12, like Superintendent Parker said just a moment ago. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miss Angela Graves, presenting grades PK2, and she is our Cornelius Elementary principal.
And I want to preface this by saying, go back to the other slides. I don't see this one yet. I want to preface this by saying, working a swing shift on these schedules for the last month, there is no good schedule. So I want to preface that by saying there is no good schedule. So what we did is we created a lot of schedules and tried to come up with the best schedules we could come up with. And then we presented those to the staff. So this is what the majority of teachers pre-K through 2nd grade wanted, and it makes sense. So this would be non-simulcast teaching. which makes sense when you're talking about little kids. It's hard to have kids in person and kids on the screen at the same time, and a reduced day model. So in the morning, you can see from our diagrams there, in the morning, the teacher would teach to the in-person kids. They do all their core content in the morning. And then in the afternoon, the teacher would teach the kids that are at home online. So there's no simultaneous teaching. It's you teach the kids in person, then you teach the kids at home online. So they will have the same teacher they have now. They will just see half their classmates because half the classmates will be in person, the other half will be online. And then we'd have 3 different cohorts. We'd have cohort A, who would come in person on Monday and Tuesday. Cohort B would come in person on Thursday and Friday. And then cohort C are the families that have chosen to be online in CDL for the rest of the year. So they'll be online every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday in the afternoon. So there's flexibility with this because families can opt to stay remotely the whole time and receive the exact same instruction as the students who are in person. And then our ELD, reading interventions, PE, music, counseling lessons are going to be in the afternoon for our in-person students and in the morning for the remote students. And I'll show you a schedule next. So for example, those cohort A kids, the blue kids up there, they are coming in person. So what their schedule looks like on Monday and Tuesday is they get their core instruction in the morning at school in person. Then we're going to give them a lunch, a grab and go lunch and breakfast to eat at home. So then they don't have to eat at school, and they'll have breakfast for the next day at home. And then their whole afternoon will be online. They'll get any extra services that they need, like ELD, special education, interventions. They'll get their PE, music, counseling, all of the fun classes that the kids like to do. Then the cohort B kids will get all of those classes in the morning. They'll get their PE, music, interventions, special education services, ELD, all of that in the morning online. And then in the afternoon, they will get their core instruction from their teacher, their core classes online. The CDL kids, that green group, they will follow the same schedule every day. So it doesn't matter if it's a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, they will get all of their extra classes in the morning, the PE, music, counseling, interventions in the morning, and then in the afternoon will always be their core instruction. So the cohort A and cohort B will flip-flop what their schedules look like from Monday to Tuesday to Thursday and Friday, but that cohort C online only will always have that schedule. Does that make sense so far? Okay, go ahead and go to the next page then. Okay, so these are the pros and cons for this particular model, which is that reduced day, non-simulcast model for pre-K2. So obviously no simulcast is developmentally appropriate for the younger grades. Another pro is they get the same teacher that they have now, the same classmates they have now. And the added bonus is teachers teach fewer students at the same time. They only have to worry about half the class that's in person, the other half of the class is at home. And the students who are in person will get a jump start on what next year is going to look like. They'll get that in-person model, especially as we have previously stated, our current pre-Ks, kinders have never been to school before in an actual building. And then our first graders only got a little taste of it last year before they were whisked away to do school online. So that'll be a nice jump start of what next year will look like for them. And then the majority, like vast majority of pre-K through second grade teachers preferred this model. The cons to this model is a teacher has to repeat the same lessons twice a day, which some teachers probably wouldn't think that was a con. I enjoyed doing that when I taught in the dual language program because you get better at things the more you teach them. But you teach in the AM for one group of students and the PM for the other group of students. So you repeat your same lesson twice. And another con is the in-person students won't get to see all their classmates. They will only get to see half their classmates at a time because they'll be in an opposite schedule as, you know, if they're in cohort A or cohort B. They'll always get to see the cohort C online kids in their online classes, but they won't necessarily get to see all of their classmates every day. Any questions so far? Okay, now I'm going to let it over.
So presenting grades 3-4, Dr. Perla Rodriguez, Echo Shaw Elementary School Principal. Perla.
Okay, so I'm glad Angela did all that heavy lifting because I can just compare my model to what Angela described. For 3rd and 4th grade, the model that received the most support from teachers polled was this reduced day simulcast teaching. And so if you think back to what Angela described, this is very similar, with the main difference being that the teacher will in the morning teach at the same time her students that are live in person and the kiddos that are on Zoom through CDL. This enables us to keep the same teacher with the students. We won't be moving children to different teachers. And it will also continue the ABC cohorts that will remain the same, where students whose parents have chosen to have them return to hybrid, they will be in either cohort A or B, and the days would be Monday, Tuesday for A, Thursday, Friday for B. And our cohort C students are those students for whom parents have decided that they will finish this year in CDL. So why don't we go to what this looks like? Next slide. Okay, so if you think back to the slide that Angela showed, this cohort B, the pink one, that happened in the afternoon for the teacher. And so in that model, it makes sense for the youngest students that the teacher isn't balancing the live students that are in the classroom with the CDL. For our older students, the teachers felt like that was manageable and that it opened up for them the afternoon to perhaps do reteaching of lessons. One of the things that I know teachers in my building were excited about was the possibility that if there were students that needed additional support, we could potentially look at having them with us in the morning on their day and then keeping them through the afternoon to do like an extended lippy. So it just for, which would be more difficult to do if you were then teaching your online students in the afternoon. So I think this probably makes sense now after you saw Angela's version. Pros and cons. John, next slide. So for pros, it does force us to, which ends up being a good thing, push that core content of reading and math up to the morning. The teachers are seeing both of their classes, which means that not only does the teacher have the students together, but the students are able to see their peers daily. Teachers have that afternoon time. The students are seeing their classmates. And again, the 3rd through 4th grade teachers in our district, this is the one that the majority landed on. Some cons is I cannot emphasize how challenging this is going to be. And so I just, I know that people are feeling like it's time, and nobody feels that more than our teachers. But it is not going to be easy. Even in the course of this meeting, it's been like somebody has their microphone on and we're grown, we're adults, and we've been doing this Zoom thing for a minute. So it's going to be challenging. We're looking at building in supports. There will need to be assistance for teachers, both through instructional assistants, where they're able to help manage either the live group for part of the time or the online group. Another con is in many of our schools, the amount of time that we are right now live on Zoom with students is longer than the half day that they would be in the morning in this model. But as elementary principals, we've talked about, at some point, this idea of quality versus quantity. And if we have some students that we haven't really deeply connected with since last year, the idea that we could have them live for half of the day where I could see them versus all day long, and they may or may not be on the other side of the tile. we're thinking it's time, and it's worth the trade-off of the potential instructional minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Any
You're
questions?
welcome.
for Perla?
Before we move on to the next level, I did get a question messaged to me, so I wanted to answer that. And that question is there time for a community meeting or social emotional learning? And there is in both of these schedules, and that would be at the beginning of your block with the kids. So we didn't put in there into the schedule. There's going to be like 10 minutes of going through the process of getting in the building and using hand sanitizer and being visually screened and making sure your mask is covering your nose and all of that. That's part of it. And then the very first thing the teachers are going to do, both in person and online, is to have a community meeting with their class. So that's how we're going to start our day every day, with a community meeting, whether that's online for our kids that are not doing it simulcast, or whether that's first thing in the morning with that in-person group.
Thank you for that distinction, Angela. Any questions for Perla? Okay, now I'd like to introduce the Tom McCall team, led by Summer Johnson. She is our Tom McCall teacher on special assignment at General at Large, has been doing a fantastic job. Brenda Lindsay, our district math TOSA, PK 6, and Deb Schenzer, our 6th grade math teacher and STEM teacher at Tom McCall, and Mr. Brian Gamble, 5th grade math and STEM teacher. Summer.
Awesome. I'm going to, again, Summer Johnson, I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the model that we're recommending for 5th and 6th grade at Tom McCall. And then we'll kind of each take different pieces. But first, the model we're looking at is the simulcast teaching. Similar to what was said, our teachers overwhelmingly voted in favor of this model, and those classroom teachers that would be doing the simulcast. We're calling our simulcast teaching, and then specials are going to be remote live. Basically, it is at teaching in person and virtual at the same time. So there is no reshuffling of students or teachers. Everybody stays the same. They see each other. They would also follow that cohort model of A or B, with Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday to be consistent. And then really offers the opportunity to be flexible for a family that's not comfortable and wants to stay CDL. They're going to stay kind of doing the same thing that they're doing currently. And then if they are wanting to be a part of it in person, then they're just coming into cohort A or B, depending on which one they're allotted to. This does provide from 1 to 2 time for students would then access. They would go home and they would access specials virtually, and then I know you're going back. And then that virtual specials would be live. So just kind of what they're doing in CDL. And that also gives that opportunity for LIPI, for the students that really need additional support. They could stay and extend all the way to the typical end of Tom McCall's day, which is 2 o'clock. This provides some time for teachers to be available for things like retakes or reteaching, or even just family connections that have been more difficult, significantly more difficult in CDL. And then teachers would have prep daily as usual during an asynchronous science time. And then social studies would be a weekly asynchronous lesson. And then students really maintain the same full day. What's currently being taught at Tom McCall, students log in at 7:45 a.m. and they end their day at 2, and that still would be the same time frame that they would be working in this hybrid recommendation. Next, Brenda Lindsay is going to go through the schedule, and this is just a sample student schedule with Tom McCall. You know, it may be a different order for different groups, but she's going to kind of walk through what that might look like for a student in 5th or 6th grade during this hybrid simulcast teaching.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to walk you through a typical day. So at 7:45, students would start their morning meeting. And this would be for all students, whether they're in CDL or live. And this is really a chance for teachers to have a check-in with a focus on SEL and just make sure everyone has what they need to be successful. At 8 o'clock, they would move to an asynchronous lesson for science, or they would move into their ELD course. At 8:30, they would start their 90-minute math block. And then at 10 a.m., they would switch. If they were live and in person, they would switch to their second teacher. Or if they were in CDL, they would take a 15-minute brain break. At 10:15, they would start their next morning meeting. They're checking with their second teacher. And then at 10:30, they would have their 90-minute lit block. At noon, they would receive their grab-and-go meals, and they would be released for dismissal. For students who are staying in the limited in-person instruction that occurs later in the day, they would be eating their lunch in building, taking a short break, connecting with their Lippy teacher, and then receiving 1 hour of small group limited in-person instruction until the 2 o'clock end of day. Are there any questions about that?
Yeah, hi Brenda, this is Valerie.
Hi Val.
Can we go back to the schedule slide, John, please?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Oh, you got it, Brenda, thanks. I was just curious, so when they're doing the science asynchronously so the teachers can have prep, are they in that classroom with the teacher doing it asynchronously on the computers?
I'll answer that for you if you're good with that.
Okay.
So there would be instructional assistants in the room, and we might have to kind of move some around so that they cover that. And it's not the exact same schedule, again, for every class. So that 30-minute would be slightly different depending. And then teachers would, because it is that prep, they would be able to leave the room if
needed.
Yep, if
Okay,
needed or wanted.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Pros and cons.
Good evening, I'm Deb Schenzer, and so we know with all these, there's going to be pros and cons, but we looked at the pros for this model. One that we thought was really super important was that the students would stick with the same teacher and their peers, that they would be able to see them daily as they connected with them. It does, this also does provide for the limited in-person option for the students needing additional support can be invited to stay. It kind of goes with that. The next one is that their PE and music is provided daily. So that means if they did stay for limited in-person instruction on their Monday, Tuesday, day they were there, then they could do their PE and music on their Thursday and Friday. So they wouldn't be missing out on their specials time if they were staying in the building for limited in person. It also allows for PE to have the physical movement with their mask free. So that was kind of a thing that would be nice for them. And then it allows for a contact-free lunch so that we thought that would, if they're getting their grab-and-go lunch to eat that is going to reduce the risk of exposure. Otherwise, you'd have kids in the classroom eating. So that would increase the exposure. And then we also thought it was important that they were going to reduce their screen time. So if the persons are in the classroom, the students would be live with the teacher and not have to be on a Zoom meeting. So that would reduce that time.
Thank you, Deb. I'm Brian Gamble, and fifth grade teacher at Tom McCall, and just wanted to share a little about what cons might come up, or at least when we looked at this model. Simulcast, again, is a challenge, like Dr. Rodriguez shared, in that it's logistically hard for teachers in the classroom to figure out how I'm going to teach both in-person kids and those online. But I mean, when teachers were surveyed and asked what model they liked, I think Tom McCall teachers resoundingly said that they're up for that challenge. This was the model that the vast majority said that they would like to look at. I think the work that our hybrid and Lippy team has done, the pilot team to kind of see the technology tools we can use and how we can go about doing that is of good work, and that knowledge and expertise will be shared as we work through build into this hybrid model. There is a small reduction in in-person time, instructional time that happens with this model, but that isn't compared to the last year's school year, so the 2019-20 school year. This school year, the instructional time is the exact same that we are currently doing in CDL. So there is a small reduction, but overall, the students will be getting the same amount of instruction as currently. And then just the last con is just the asynchronous science and social studies time. So that will not be live instruction, but there is time that students will be continuing to get their science and social studies curriculum.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions for our Tom McCall team? All right, thank you. Hearing none, our secondary hybrid planning. Karen.
So secondary, obviously, for the majority of the year, except for summer, we were doing a lot of brainstorming around what hybrid looked like. And then we put that on the back burner, realizing that Lippy was going to be more the direction for a while. And so now we're back into conversations around what hybrid looks like at the secondary level. So we are in the beginning planning stages. So our hybrid planning committee at the secondary, that's 7 through 12, these committees will focus on primarily the instructional model, like you just heard from pre-K 6. What does it look like? What resources are needed? Our given is that we will maintain the same cohorts throughout the district. Basically your Monday, Tuesday cohort, and then Thursday, Friday cohort. Our leadership teams will review the hybrid instructional model proposal, have some conversations around that. And then our administrative team will actually take on the logistics of the hybrid model. So the, screening, the passing times, the lunch times, arrival, dismissal, all that stuff. We are planning on sending surveys out to parents once we have the instructional model together and we can actually, inform them what that's going to look like, the safety procedures that are in place. That way they can make an educated decision on whether CDL or hybrid is right for them. There's probably a lot, but I don't have the answer.
Any questions for Karen?
Yeah, I just have a question. When will the work be done? When will we know?
A lot of that's going to depend on our committee work, I would say. If we've obviously been trying to wrap our heads around this for a while now. So, ideally it's 2 or 3 weeks. We wouldn't want to, we've got our meetings scheduled for Wednesday afternoons for a couple hours. So, I think it just kind of depends on how everybody can kind of come together and decide on what model makes the most sense. Regardless of model, it's going to be hard work. Like Perla was saying, it's hard. If you do simulcast, that's a hard thing for us to get our heads wrapped around when you got kids in front of you and kids at home on Zoom. So, but hopefully we'll have a plan back before you, in several weeks.
In the model, Karen, or John, Karen, or maybe it's John, it'll be 7-12, the same model, John, is that right?
We're not sure. Just totally candidly, we're looking at various models. Back to that assistant superintendent. They haven't landed on models as of yet. We are talking, that's one of our most important meetings every week. And it's, okay, how do we make this work and keep the students and staff safe and the learning at a high rate? So that's to be determined. We have secondary principals meetings, usually bi-weekly, and from here on out, we're going to be meeting weekly or as needed, because we're going to be closely monitoring what other districts come up with.
Okay.
Hey, Karen, it's Brad. Yeah. Karen, Brad. Are you saying you're surveying the parents or you're giving them the information as it comes about? Are you surveying for, what are you looking for from parents?
Well, so we'd like to get we have a preliminary percentage of parents that are looking at one or the other, right? So we can get a handle on what percentage of kids are we looking at actually coming into the building within a hybrid model. So are we talking 60%? Are we talking 70 or 80%? How many? And we do realize though that we've got to be ready to pivot. If a kid wants to come from, say they're really hesitant in the first 2 weeks, they're in CDL, and they want to then participate in hybrid, we understand that we've got to be flexible, but we'd really like to get an understanding of what percentage or how many kids we're talking about to start with.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Brad, I think what you're saying too, or whatever in that slide is basically when they have come up with their instructional model, then they'll send out the survey to see what the parents think about if they'd rather keep them with CDL or do the hybrid.
Right. I'm just thinking, so if we have a starting date of April 19th, I mean, that's kind of the timeline. So we set our benchmarks to get to that 19th, and obviously things could change, but I just, yeah, I get it. All right, thanks.
And Brad, that's a great point. As soon as board gives us your blessing and approval, we will start parent meetings. Some of the principals have parent meetings ready to go tomorrow and definitely this week to start communicating what do these models look like. Also, what we're talking about is the priority has been keep the relationships going, keep the kids with the same teachers and their same peers as much as possible. Social emotional learning component, we hear that repeatedly. You just had a board presentation at our last board meeting. And then also we wanted to provide parents the flexibility to make a decision. Do I hold my student out in any one of these meetings, models? And what we're also making a determination is we're going to have 2 decision points, at least that's the plan, where parents can reconsider. I'm sure they're going to get, the longer we go in hybrid, the more feedback we'll get from teachers, staff, parents, students, and particularly in the synchronous models where they see their kids, their peers in a classroom being successful, parent might want to opt in. One of the concerns we heard loud and clear in Assistant Supes was if you make the parents choose and don't give a choice, any flexibility, again, Dave's key word, flexibility, to alter their decision. We didn't want to lock them in. Also, what's really key about bringing the kids back in hybrid, we're allowing parents to keep them home or send for the remaining of this year. But we also want to learn in case we're in this situation, which it appears more than likely this fall. So what's working? What doesn't work? What kind of model are we going to look at? And we're going to continue to monitor and adjust. And that's what this whole year has been about, monitoring and adjusting.
I'm just looking at the logistics of busing and schedules. And if you know you have that target date of the 19th after tonight, the sooner the better to get started with all those kinds of things. I mean, you know that, Karen, you know that. So that's my only comment.
Thank you.
John, you want to move forward one more slide? So here's the recommendations we have for you that we're asking the board to make a motion for. And it has to do with the starting dates and then the change in the calendar to accommodate some staff prep days to move back into their classrooms.
Are those 2 separate motions?
Before we go to,
well,
wait, before we go to the motion,
yeah, go ahead.
I had another couple questions about the presentation. I just want to say thanks to everybody for your hard work. I really appreciate it. I think as a parent, I would love to have the choice on whether or not I send my kids back to school in hybrid or do the CDL. So I appreciate it. I know it's been hard. I also want to say along those same lines that there's been nothing easy about this past year. In the spring when we had to go to CDL, it wasn't great at all. But in the fall, when we came back in CDL, it had improved so much. And I know that's because of all the hard work and all the lessons we learned. So no matter what happens, I have full faith in our district and our educators that they're going to overcome any trials that they have, and we're going to learn from the hybrid, and we're going to get better. So I do appreciate everybody's work, and especially Superintendent Parker's. Back to the first part with the primary education, all of the specials are going to be in the afternoon after the students leave the classes. So it's not really a question, it's just more of a comment. I'm just curious how many are going to log back in when they get home for those specials. And I think it's something we should keep our eye on. And like, is attendance going to be just taken in the morning, or will it be taken for those specials as well?
Want me to answer that?
You don't have to. I mean, it's just a comment and something to think about. I mean, hopefully it's something that stood out to me when I was seeing that schedule.
Mhm. For the asynchronous mornings, that won't be
Okay,
true.
appreciate it.
Can you hear me okay? Yes? No? Okay. The asynchronous schedule, there will be specials all day long because there'll be the morning block of kids and the afternoon block. But in the synchronous model, the specials would only be in the afternoon. But that's, I mean, it's a risk no matter what. Right now, it's a risk whether kids attend their specials or not, you know? And
Yeah.
right now, kids only get credit for attendance once a day. It's signing in the morning. We don't do afternoon attendance at the elementary level. It's just, did you show up to class? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So I just have a comment. I mean, first of all, second to what Val said about appreciating all the hard effort from everyone. The other thing is, it'd be nice to be able to collect some data during this time to figure out what's working and what's not working. And I don't know if there's a way to do that. I mean, if you're only logging in as for attendance in the morning and not knowing whether they're participating, that's a hard thing to do. So if there's a way to figure out how you can quantify the kids that are participating, so when we look at next year, we can make some decisions about making some changes if it's not working. That would be my only comment. So.
Thanks.
And teachers do take data on that. It's just not put into Synergy for attendance to the state. So the teachers take attendance for every single class, but what we turn into Synergy to the state is just once a day attendance.
So we'll have that data.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, other comments or questions from the board? So this looks like one motion, Mr. Parker, is that?
That's a good Kathy question. I think it's one motion that we read it and then you say.
Okay.
Yeah, it can be one motion. You can do two if you want, but it can be one motion.
Okay.
Mark, you want me to make the motion?
Sure.
Or do you just want to read it?
Sure, I'll read it. The motion is that the Forest Grove School District reopens for in-person instruction as follows: grades pre-K to first on April 5, 2021, grades 2 to 4 on April 12th, 2021, grade 5 on April 12th, 2021, grade 6 on April 19, 2021, grade 7-12 on April 19.
I bet I lost my screen.
2021. With the transition for staff dates as follows: grades pre-K to 6, March 29 to 31, 2021 will become staff prep days, no school grades, no school grades. Pre-K to 6, regular school days. No school grades for pre-K to 6, regular school days for grades 7 to 12, with 2 other Wednesdays to be cleared for additional prep for grades 7 through 12. And then April 14th to the 16th will become staff prep days with no school grade for grades 7 through 12, regular school for grades pre-K to 6, with 2 other Wednesdays to be cleared for additional prep. So, so that's
I'll
the
second
motion.
it.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. We'll do a vote. So I'm yes. Brad?
Yes.
And Val?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the David Hill property MOU with the city of Forest Grove, and this is being presented by Eileen Clute.
Thank you, Mark. Tonight, we're presenting the board with an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Forest Grove. This IGA is a result of the David Hill property that we purchased last month. Part of that property purchase was increasing the total acres to 16 acres from the original 10 that we had committed. As a result, what we're doing is we're purchasing the acreage that was set aside for a city park. And in working with the city, we came to an agreement that the district will go ahead and purchase the full 16, and then we will provide the city an option to purchase back from us up to 2 acres at our chosen location out of the 16 when we go to develop. So it'll give us the most flexibility in that design and building. With that, it would be, let's see, other components is the district would get 50% of the cost to obtain a lot line adjustment. And then the city would purchase the property at the greater of our original purchase price or fair market value at the time we sell. So this IGA is presented to you tonight because it is a long-term commitment. It's longer than what we normally do a normal intergovernmental agreement for. And so with that, we thought it would be best to present it to the board for approval tonight.
Okay, Eileen, I have a question. I was looking at it and I think, how long, so the time period, once, I heard you say once we start to develop it, what's the time period? I think I saw it in the document, but I couldn't, is it a year, but that the city, how long does the city have to say, look, we want to buy it or we don't want to buy it? Is it?
Right, that's a great question, Mark. So the city, we will give the city an option when we decide to develop. So that could be, 3 years, 5 years from now. And then they do have a certain time to respond and either accept that they want to purchase acreage or not. I'm looking through it real quick, just a moment.
A year, maybe? I don't know. I was kind of looking at it.
The city will have 180 days from the date of offer to accept.
Okay. All right. I think that was my only question. The rest of it looked really good to me. So, any other questions? Okay, I don't see it. Hearing. So, I'll make a motion that we approve the David Hill property MOU with the city of Forest Grove.
Second.
Any moved and seconded? Comments? No comments, I assume. So we'll take a vote. Val Ingram?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that motion passes. Thanks very much, Eileen.
Thank you.
Oh, and now you're up again for the long range facility plan contract.
So the last one for me tonight. We have been working with Malum Architects to reconvene the Long Range Facility Planning Committee. Malum took us through the last planning process back in 2017. And what we're looking at right now is reconvening a smaller committee. We want to really value the work that was done back in 2017 and just look at the components that have changed, what factors have changed, how do we revalidate the data and see if any of the priorities have adjusted, but really use the last plan as our basis. Since this contract with Malum is over $50,000, it does require board approval. The process will be a district leadership team, a community focus group, and a community at large outreach session this spring. And we should be done by June, looking for board approval in July to get this updated. The other thing that we've done is we've applied for a ODE technical assistance that will help support and offset some of the costs, but the full cost of this update is budgeted in the 2021 budget. We do have that set aside already to get this plan updated. It will help us in the next planning steps of a future potential bond or a capital measure. And having an updated plan is a key requirement in any bond matching funds. So we will have to have one updated in order to qualify for any matching funds when we do go take that next step. So at this time, I think we're just looking for board approval to contract with Malum to get our long range facility plan updated.
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, I will call for the vote. So Val?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a yes. Brad?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you very much, Eileen. The next item is, and it might be the last action item, I think, Northwest Regional Education Service District 2021-2022 Local Service Plan. Mr. Parker.
So this is, we put this plan in front of you in the last board meeting, and basically the services are the same. There was one question that came up in the last meeting, and that was there was an increase for the cost of PD, professional development services that we might contract with them. I did talk with Dan Golden, the superintendent, and the 2.5% increase is actually the roll-up cost that they're building into all of their assumptions. So that's basically their roll-up cost that they're thinking of. Other than that, the only other change that I know with any of the services are really around, we're looking at both the ESD and the school district, looking at how we could change the truancy services that we contract with them to build in a little more social emotional context into that process. Other than that, the local service plan is pretty much the same.
Any questions for Mr. Parker regarding this? Okay. Now, we had it on our agenda at the last meeting, so okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the Northwest Regional Education Service District 2021-2022 Local Service Plan.
Second.
Okay. Call for a vote. I'm a yes. Val Ingram?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay. That motion passes. Thank you. So the last, well, that was our last action item. Future action items. We have a diversified work session has been added to our list of future board items for discussion. Is that, Kathy, do you know when that one is?
Yes, that will be the last meeting in March.
I'm sorry, That's the
Last meeting in March.
last meeting in March. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I think, let's see, I think that's it for this evening. So thank everybody for attending, and I will adjourn the school board meeting at 8:26 p.m. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mark.
Yep. Good night.
Night.